I think this comes from academia where you're, I think when you're doing something experimental, you're, of course, as a student, it doesn't really impact the real world. But then whenever you're experimenting with something, um, similar to the way a science lab would operate, they would document every step and then figure out what went wrong and then have this whole catalog of failures and then see which one of those didn't work and why didn't it work and what applies. And maybe in some context, something could fail, but then in another context it could be a success. So it's almost about how you define failure. So it's almost about it's not a one size fits all kind of a um, you know you're not coming up with a solution that fits every situation. So what could work in one situation would probably not work in another. So what is considered failure from one point of view would be a success from another point of view. So that's why, a lot of times, even in our practice, we're really process oriented and design oriented. So we like to document the failures and then later go back to them. So there have been a lot of projects where we've done, different kinds of iterations or versions and options which didn't work out, but they didn't work out only for that particular project. And then we go back um, in another project, maybe we go back and then we study the things that we did earlier that didn't work out, and then we tend to apply those to another project where it's more suitable. So it's more about perspective and context rather than rather than calling something a failure and then scrapping it. I think it's something that it's failure is like a series of steps. So if you haven't failed, that means you really haven't succeeded either, because without failure there's no success. I don't think it's the absence of success that is failure. It's a part and parcel of the whole project. And fear of failure shouldn't sort of prevent us. And this is something more of an advice that I would give, is that fear of failure shouldn't prevent us from doing something that is experimental and something new. We shouldn't be focusing on things that have been tried and tested. So if you want to do something new and you want to experiment, then this risk of failure is always going to be there. So that's something that you need to embrace and be able to get past or to incorporate in your practice. Also, we take a lot of inspiration from the way the startup industry works, where you put out the minimum viable product. So you put out this really messy, unfinished product rather than making it really clean and like Ayush said, not putting up like the ones that are that didn't work, but we like to put out everything and see if it works or not. And actually, as an architect, I don't think it's possible to know whether the space that you've designed has failed or has succeeded until the user has been using it for quite some time. So I think it's like there's a lot of investment when it comes to architecture, where you have to build and see how spaces work before you can really pass judgment on whether they work or not.